Okay, I would love to welcome you all to our second year. Welcome you all to our second year. I believe you guys are doing your BCom in ITM, and we have got a couple of modules that will be working together. So we've got database management, we've got principles of ITM, we've got management accounting, and we have got advanced business statistics. So on Thursday, you met me up and we discussed management accounting. And then today, we're just going to introduce you to your tutors who will be taking the 3 other modules. So this is not really like a lecture, but this is basically just an introduction. So you're going to see Tino, who's going to take you for database, and then you're going to see Kuraswanda, who's going to take you for principles of ITM, and then you're going to see Donald, who's going to take you for advanced business statistics. So I just gave them maybe 15 to 20 minutes to just introduce themselves and introduce the module. So it's going to be about 1 hour long, but they will take maybe 20 minutes each or something like that to just introduce themselves and the module that they'll be teaching. Right. But from next week, we'll be sending the video separately for each module. But for today, we just thought because it's an introduction, it's unnecessary to really stop the recording and then start again. We'll just combine everything into one, since we are only dealing with you guys who are doing IT. I hope you have a pleasant time. Remember, we've already discussed about the fees. It's 100 per module and etc. So it's not necessary to talk about that for now. But I'll hand over to, okay. Please make sure you're...
Hello, guys.
Okay, so I'll hand over to Tino.
Hello, guys. May you please confirm if I'm audible, if you can hear me clearly? All right. Thank you. Okay, so my name is Tino. So I'll be taking you throughout this semester for Informatics 2A. Informatics 2A. So we're going to discuss how we're going to conduct this module throughout this semester. Firstly, what we are going to do is after this introduction lesson, I'm going to send you what we call the videos, which are specifically customized for you guys for database, right? So that's what I'm going to do after this lesson. Let me share my screen so that we can be on the same page. Okay. All right. So what we are going to do is, can we please, guys, mute ourselves so that we can have maybe one meeting so that we don't disturb others. All right. Thank you. So what we are going to do is after this lesson, I'm going to create videos. Some of the videos I have already them by my side, so that I will just simply share to James. He will send you to you very soon. I'm going to create videos which are specifically customized for you guys so that you'll be able to listen to them. Then even in your exams, it will be what? It will be very, very easier for you. So after sending the videos, we're going to do the KCQs together in this class. Then after doing the KCQs, but if there are 2 KCQs, if it's 1 KCQ, we're going to do them in here in this class together. So I would recommend you maybe when KCQs opened, I would recommend you guys to join in the class for KCQ. Then we do them together. Then after that, towards exam period, we're going to do revision, past paper revision exercise, maybe 3 lessons or 2 lessons together in this class, so that you'll be able to face your exams. Then, so today what we're going to do is just a recap a recap. I hope and believe all we have done are informatics 1A and informatics 1B, and we have passed. That's why we are in this class, right? I would like to say congratulations to you. So just a recap from what we did under informatics 1B. Remember, under informatics 1B, we have covered what we call data structures, right? If you recall very well, we covered what you call data structures, right? So we discussed about arrays, which were internal data structures. We discussed again about queues, stacks, right? All those were types of data, right? Which were temporal, and they were internal data structures, right? And we did under informatics 1B, we did again external data structures, which were permanent data, whereby where exactly do we store what we call permanent data, right? And we discussed about files, then databases. So under informatics 1B, we did not cover databases, but we cover external data structures, only files, index files, sequence of files, if you remember very well, right? So now we are going to focus on databases, right? That's another way of storing external data on our computers, right? So that's where the foundation we laid under informatics 1B. So now we are moving on to informatics 2A. It's only databases. But where are we getting those databases? We are getting databases under informatics 1B, whereby we discussed about data, temporal data and permanent data, and say permanent data is stored on what we call external data structures. It's all about data structure. It's all about how we organize our data within our computers, right? So on the external databases now, we are now discussing more into detail what exactly is a database, right? So that's what we are going to cover firstly on one of your recordings that you are going to receive. So I'm going to discuss more on what is a database systems, right? What are types of databases that we have, right? And the advantages and disadvantages of those databases, and also how to create a database, right? That is going to be our first topic, right? Then we move on to data models. What exactly is a data model? A conceptual, how exactly do we design those databases? Maybe within an organization, maybe a small organization or a big organization, we are all using data. Hence, we need to store data in a safe place so that we can retrieve it, we can process it, and make informed decisions from the data. That's why we are learning this module, which is specifically for databases, right? So we are now going to, after that, the data module process, we are going to do what we call another type of databases, which is relational database model. How database communicates within a database, right? We have different attributes within a database, maybe student name, student number, Gmail, right? We now need to connect, to interact maybe with different databases from different sources, maybe database within one place, but sometimes because of the growth of technology, databases are being connected, decentralized. So we now need to communicate how they relate, the relational databases that we can do, right? Then after that, we are going to discuss on what we call entity relation data modeling. Right? How can we model our data so that we can have a consistent, so that we reduce redundancy in each and every database, right? Then we move on to another topic of interest, which is normalization. Then we move on to structured query language, which is simply called SQL, right? On SQL, what I would recommend you guys, maybe we can have another lesson whereby we meet, then we do a practical, right? How can we create a query within how can we create a table on our database, right? And also run our database. So on this one, I would maybe communicate with James so that we can meet. Unlike sending you videos specifically for this topic, which is SQL, right? SQL in short. then we create tables and also run the specific commands under these queries, right? After that, after finishing this course, after finishing this unit, right, we now need to say we have done our Java under informatics 1A and 1B, right? So how can we link, how can we run a Java application using our databases? How can we connect, right, the visual connection between this the Java that we did under informatics 1A and the database? Now we now need to communicate these two to link. How can we achieve, or how can we process, how can we retrieve data that we have stored from our databases? So in short, that's all what we are going to cover this unit on databases, right? So we are going to define what is a database and create models and differentiate types of database that we have, and also run specific commands creating a database using a certain language which is called structured query language, right? So that's what we are going to cover. So starting next week or so, I'm going to send you the videos. Then we meet here and there. When we have questions to ask, we can communicate with Sir James. Then we do the meeting. Then we discuss. If you have any questions, that's the right time to ask. Do you have any questions? Since it's an introduction, we're not going to dig deep for today. Do you have any questions, guys? All right, so I take the silence as no, we don't have any questions. So let's expect the videos for databases starting next week. Thank you. So this time I'm going to leave this time to Sekuda. Is going to introduce you to another module. Sekuda, over to you.
Okay, thank you so much, Setino, and a pleasant evening to all of you. Just confirm if you can hear me, if I'm audible.
Yes, we can hear you.
All right, okay, thank you so much. All right, so my name is Kuda. I'll be the one who's taking you for information technology management to A. So likewise, I know Setino managed to talk what we are supposed to offer you guys. So I'm going also to take you for the module, and then I'm going to make some offline recordings, and also I'm going to cover if there's an assignment for this module, I'm going to cover you for that assignment, and also the KCQ. Then towards the examination, we are going to have lectures where we are going to be giving one another tips on how how we can best prepare you for the examination so that you can pass with flying colors. All right, so today the aim of today's brief lecture is just an introduction, so that at least you can appreciate the manner of delivery. How do I conduct, my lectures? All right, so we are not going to go in depth. So I'm just going to cover maybe a definition and what to expect from the module. And from next week going onwards, that's when we are going to be sending you the recordings of the information that is contained in the study module itself. So let me share my screen. Okay. All right. So okay. Can you please allow me to share the screen?
All right. Let me do so.
Setino.
All right. Let me do so.
So whilst I'm waiting for him to allow me to share, it's not more like a new subject that we are doing. I'm assuming that some of you guys, you did information management, right? I'm not so sure if some of you did that. Then last year, I'm not so sure if you had a module that talked about information technology in general, but it's not something new. I want to believe that some of the modules we did cover with Setino in the prior lectures to this year. All right, so let me share the screen. Did I share the screen? Okay. So remember, we are living in what is called a fourth industrial revolution age, 4IR. So obviously, everything is revolving around information technology. So some of these things that we're going to talk about in this lecture, you already know, because it's some of the things that you meet day to day. So like I said, information technology management, 2A, I'll be the one that will be taking you for this lecture. So let's start by defining basically what information technology management is before we talk about what you are to expect in this module. So generally, information technology management in this course, we are mainly talking about the information and communication technology, or what you call ICT. So generally, that's what we are talking about. So information technology management is more like you are managing information technology. So information technology on its own, it's information and communication technology. So ICT, it is the ways of finding, gathering, manipulating information, and then presenting or communicating it. So basically, this first part there is talking about the management of that information, right? And then the latter part is talking about how you communicate, that information. So that's why it's called ICT, information and communication technology. So ICT now, it includes the making of computers, the providing of software, programming, communication services such as email and the internet, right? So generally, ICT, it is an umbrella term which includes any communication device, right, or application encompassing radio, television, cellular phones, smartphones, right? Because some of you might say cellular phones. So cellular phones, I know it's an odd way of talking about, mobile phones. So nowadays we have smartphones, right? So smartphones are hardware, software, satellite systems, and so on. So as long as you are able to convey information in whatever form, which is digital, right? That is ICT technology, right? It is the technology that you use, right, to convey information. So like right now, we are using Zoom. Zoom is a video conferencing, right? So obviously it's part of ICT technology. Distance learning. Some of you guys, at Mancosa during COVID-19, you were doing, offline lectures, doing things offline, distance learning. So it's all possible due to ICT. So generally, in this module, we're going to talk about systems that surround computers, in terms of hardware, in terms of software, in terms of communication devices, and their transmission and the monitoring function. So what are we to expect in this module? So you will see that your module is divided basically into more like 2 segments, right? So there's what we call, a segment where it's focusing on ICT in the future, right? And then there's a segment where it's talking about organization and the future. So the first segment, right, it's going to be covered using Unit 1, Unit 2, and Unit 3. So Unit 1, Unit 2, Unit 3 is talking about ICT. Basically, let's say the devices, the communication methods, and the uses, right? So basically, that's what we're talking about. So Section 1, basically, it talks about hardware and software. Section 2 narrows down to communication. Section 3, uses of ICT in the future. Then when we have finished with those 3 units, then we move on to the second segment, where now it's talking about ICT within the organization. All right. So we start with section 4, where we talk about how ICT now is being utilized within organizations and how we see strategic planning being incorporated to make sure that ICT is used properly within the organization. And then we see what we call enterprise-wide ICT, which is unit 6, and then the last unit, which is the workflow. So all those, it's under the second segment, which is the organization future. So just to give you a brief, right? So unit 1, it introduces you to the concept of information communication technology, all right? So in this unit, the nature and the definition of ICT are examined by breaking down information and communication technology into its building blocks of computers and communication. So we try to explain this from a layman's point of view. What is, ICT? What components are included within ICT? What is the building block, right, of ICT? So this unit now, it takes an in-depth view of computers and understanding their components and the purposes. Then unit 2, now we are going to talk about ICT and the use of collaboration media. So generally, we are going to talk about the relationship between ICT, right, and the integration of what we call collaboration mediums, such as internet and intranet. So just to give you a brief, I think you can see the day that we are living in, most people are doing what is called remote working. So you can't be able to work remotely if you don't have what we call collaboration medium. So that's why you see people, they can travel wherever they are, but still they can attend work meetings, still they can submit work on time because of the collaboration medium. So those collaboration mediums now, they correlate, they work in existence with ICT, information communication technology. So that's where we are going to see the correlation between these two. And in that unit, the student will explore the seamless, endless possibilities that are created for collaboration when computers are linked to each other. And in that unit, we also explore the more common collaboration mediums. Then unit 3, we are talking about the uses of ICT in the future, right? So the student will have a glimpse of the future of ICT and be urged to place these considerations at the back of their mind. Then unit 4, we are talking about ICT. So unit 1, 2, 3, like I said, we are focusing on ICT itself and the future, right? So we are defining ICT building blocks and its uses and so forth, right? Now from unit 4 going to the end, we are now focusing on ICT within the organization. So now you will see the 3 worlds of IT, which we are going to review in that unit, right? Where it will allow the adoption of IT within the organization. Unit 5, it then talks about the strategic planning. So this unit now looks at how desired outcomes can be achieved by formulating plans that are feasible and make use of available ICT resources and capabilities. Because remember, we are living in an age of constant change. So obviously, the organization must always be a step ahead, right? So that, you don't keep on using technologies that become obsolete. All right. So now unit 6, we then talk about what is called the enterprise-wide information technology. So in this unit, it will be building from the previous unit, right? Where a need will arise, where we need to understand how to technically implement the organization business strategy and business process. Because remember, we're talking about strategic planning. So now you need to find how to technically implement those strategies. So that's where now this enterprise-wide IT, known as enterprise architecture, come into play. So it's important now to identify some of the architecture styles and the process that can be used to lay as a foundation to develop the enterprise architecture for the organization, right? And then the last unit will be workflow and business process management in ICT. So in this unit now, we'll explain workflow, which is all about controlling how and when information or data or tasks are passed from one person or machine to another for action. So now in this unit, basically we are just focusing on the business process management, the workflow, how the information now is flowing, maybe from one person to another, how the information is flowing from one machine to the other. So remember, we want to make sure that there's efficiency in that dissemination of what? Of the information. So basically, this is the lecture, the whole lectures in a nutshell. So I've managed to explain to you the units and what we're going to cover. So now, from next week, I'll be sending videos that we have, the lecture material in detail of what we were talking about now. So I'm not so sure, guys, if there are any questions, maybe that you may want to ask regarding this module. But like I said, this module is straightforward. Some of the things that we're going to be talking about, you actually relate to them in day-to-day life. So it's going to be easy for you, to understand some of the concepts that we are going to be talking about in this module. All right. So if there are no questions, over to you, say Tino or say James. Thank you so much for your time.
Good day, everybody. Good day to one and all. Can you all hear me?
Yes,
Hello?
we can hear you.
All right.
Yes,
Good evening. A good evening to you all. My name is Donald Kangorwa, and I'm going to be taking ITM Advanced Business Statistics. So I just want to give you guys a quick overview about what ITM Business Statistics is all about. So in this module, we have 7 units. Starting with, let me just cast my screen so that you can see. From the study guide, we have 7 modules. Okay. Right. So yes, we have 7 modules, starting from 7 units, starting from unit 1, types of data, group frequency distributions, graphical representations of data. So these are basically the distributions, graphs, and tables, methods of recording data that we're going to deal with in this module that we'll be doing together. And unit number 2 is containing management statistics. So in this unit, that's where we'll come across median, mode, et cetera, and grouped frequency tables, distributions. And just a disclaimer, it would be very wise of you in our coming lectures to also try and do this topic before we do it together. And then next, we have probability and probability distributions. This is probability of a certain outcome happening from a certain situation. We are going to talk more in depth regarding that. Index numbers, linear correlation and regression, seasonal indices, and unit 7, lastly, time, value of money. So this is basically the more financial math side. Nonetheless, today I would like to do Is someone trying to speak? All right. I would like to do this a little bit different. So I just want to give you guys an overview of what statistics is all about, because that's what we are going to be majoring in. Starting with our unit 1, which involves the graphical representations. So firstly, what are statistics? I mean, when you heard you're going to be doing ITM, Advanced Business Statistics, what are statistics to begin with? Well, statistics is a branch of mathematics that involves the collection, analysis, interpretation, presentation, and organization of data. It provides methods for making conclusions and decisions in the presence of uncertainty. So basically, we are using data, gathering data up so that we can find meaningful information from that data. A typical example would be Netflix. I'm sure a lot of people here watch Netflix. Netflix collects data on the most watched shows to see which shows people enjoy the most. That is how they compare. I'm sure you've seen when you open Netflix, you see top 10. It's because of the number of people that are watching it repeatedly. So that's how we get meaningful information. And this furthermore helps them to decide on which shows to continue casting. So statistics is very, very imperative when it comes to business. Now, unit 1 of this statistics, advanced business statistics, we are going to be talking about graphical representations of data. But before we go to all of that, I want you guys to know that data can be classified in 2 categories. Firstly, we have quantitative data. This refers to information that can be expressed as numerical values or quantities. As you can see, I've provided some examples here. The height of a person, which is 175 centimeters, the number of cars in a parking lot. So it's basically information which can be presented as numerical values or quantities. And then we have qualitative data. This refers now to non-numerical information that describes qualities, characteristics, or attributes. So we can't write this in the form of numbers. We can't express it numerically, but rather it's things like color, emotions, opinions, textual information, as you can see on my examples here. And then we also have what we call discrete data. So these are terms, if you could note down, or I'm just going to provide my notes for those who want them at the end, because these descriptions are very important when we are dealing with statistics. For us to be able to understand the concept, we need to understand what types of data we are dealing with and what is data and how do we then make it useful and meaningful to us. A random variable, so this is discrete data. It's a random variable whose observation can take only values, specific values, only integers. So that means that, for example, let's say in a classroom, we can't say we have 2.63 people. It has to be a whole number, an integer. And then we also have continuous data. This data, it helps us to make more precise predictions. For example, 64 is really anything between 63.5 and 64.5. So we can make more precise predictions with continuous data. Discrete data is more definite. All right, going to our next heading, which is, do you have a question? Right, I guess that was a mistake. Group frequency distribution. Well, a group frequency distribution is a way of organizing data and presenting a set of data by grouping it into intervals or ranges. Instead of listing each and every individual data point, like in the example I'm going to show you, this method summarizes the data into groups, making it more manageable and easier for us to understand. All right. So in this example, we have an example. Consider a group of 50 males of different ages. 12 are between 20 and 30. 16 are between 30 and 40 years of age. 7 are between 40 and 50. 8 are between 50 and 60. And the rest are between 60 and 70. As you can see, this is it's a bit cumbersome in it. You can get lost, like I almost got lost whilst I was reading this. So what these tables help us do is to group our data in a way which it becomes less cumbersome to deal with and to interpret. Like in this table, as you can see, we have our age intervals at the top and then the number of males. So basically, it makes it much more easier for us to interpret our data. Just a few things I want us to take note of. Like just looking at this data, we can now be able to say that, okay, excuse me, I just need to.
Excuse me, Donald.
Yes.
We're not seeing the tables that you're talking about. We only see the tables of contents. Is that the page that you want to show?
Oh my goodness. I thought all along my screen is sharing. Sorry, guys. I am so sorry. Can I just rectify that? Okay. You share. I'm so sorry, guys. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mandisa. All right. Does everybody see the table? Can you now see the table?
Yes, we can see the table now.
All right. Thank you so much. I'm really sorry for that. Maybe I can just try to go back a few slides so that you can, okay, but these are basically my notes. I'm sure you have understood that. And okay, from here, this is the table I'm talking about. This is our group frequency distribution table. So here are our intervals. Can you see my cursor on the intervals? Between 20 to 30, 30 to 40, 40 to 50, until the very last one. So this makes it so much easier for us to be able to interpret our data. Now, I just want us to, so in example, majority of the males, just by looking at this table, we can see that the majority of the males are actually in the age interval of 30 and 40. Without having to go and read through all that information, we can easily see that by just looking at the table. And then most, which is the model, they lie also between the 30 and 40 interval. And just something to always remember, when we add all these frequencies, which are our number of males, it must give us 50. Because remember, the question says that we are considering a group of 50 males of various ages. Right. Excuse me. So now I would like us to do an example as we are just concluding so that we know why we need, okay, yes, nextly, excuse me, guys, I just left out some notes, which I'm trying to just share to you. Okay. Okay. You share, okay. Right. So here we have histograms. This is another graphical representation of data that we're going to be dealing with in this specific module that we'll be doing together. The same data that we have on top in this frequency table can be presented in the form of a histogram, which you're seeing here in red. It is a frequency versus age bar chart which has the frequency on the y-axis, which is our horizontal axis, and then, oh, sorry, on the y-axis, which is our vertical axis, and then the x-axis, it has the ages, which is the horizontal axis. All right. So having spoken about all those, we're coming to this one called the cumulative frequency distribution, also known as the OGIVE. So the terms might be used interchangeably. We need the cumulative frequency column to plot the OGIVE. So to this table that we have here, we need a cumulative frequency column. Now, you're probably wondering, oh no, how do we calculate cumulative frequency? Don't worry, I got you guys. So to find our cumulative frequency values, for the very first value, it's equal to the value of the first interval. As you can see here, this 12 is equal to this. So in any cumulative frequency table, which has in any frequency table which has a cumulative frequency column, you will always see that these two digits are the same at the very beginning. Now here comes the twist. To find the next value, we add this frequency value in the next interval. Here we add, so it's 12 plus 16, which gives us 28. You can check it on your calculator. 12 plus 16, which gives us 28. And then to find our next value, we do the same thing, but now with the interval which has ages between 40 and 50. So it's 28 plus 7, which gives us 35. And then we continue on. 35 plus 18, we get 43. 43 plus 7, we get 50. And if you pay attention, just to see if you've done the right thing or not, this number at the end, on the last interval here, by the last interval, I mean this, should always be equal to the total number of the sample. So we said here we are using 50 males. So that number should always, if you're feeling like you've made a mistake, just check that this number is equal to the very last number on the last interval. All right. So having spoken about that, there are two rules we need to remember when we are looking at this. All the intervals must be the same length. When we are dealing with this type of table, all the intervals must be the same length, meaning that there must be a difference of 10 from here on top, and then here, and then here. It's a difference of 10. It must be the same. Otherwise, our data is not going to be accurate. And intervals must not overlap, meaning that we cannot be counting 30 here and then 30 here. So which means that, for example, in this value of 30 less than 40, between 30 and 40, it means that the value of 40 falls into this interval, not the previous one here. All right. Nonetheless, this is how our OGIVE looks like. This is what we get when we plot our cumulative frequency distribution. So now, what do we use to calculate to be able to plot this type of graph? We use these cumulative frequency values that we would have gotten here. And then we're using also the lower limit. Sorry, the interval upper limit of our intervals here. So here, like as you can see, we'll be starting on 30 and then 40. So those are the values that we use to plot. So basically, our coordinates are going to be the interval upper limit on the x-axis, right? And then the cumulative frequency on the y-axis. So for example, our first coordinate here is 30. As you can see, this is our upper limit interval, as you can see in our table here, for the first age interval group. All right. And then we also have 12, which is our first cumulative frequency value here, which corresponds to this interval as well. Okay, but nonetheless, we cannot speak about percentiles without speaking about cumulative frequency. These two concepts, they go hand in hand. What is a percentile now? A percentile is a statistical measure which we use to describe the relative standing of a particular value within a data set. So basically, we are trying to find where a value is in the data. It indicates the percentage of data points that fall below or equal to a distribution. So basically now, when we have our cumulative frequency here in graphical form, we can be able to depict where certain data falls, as in like in what percentage of the data, all the data below that until that certain percentage. So for example, you might not understand now, but we are going to do an example just to consolidate the understanding of what this is. So we're going to come across certain terms also, which are like quartiles. So we have the 25th percentile, and this is what we call the lower quartile. And this is it's an observation which separates the lower 25% of the observation from the top 75. So meaning that we are choosing the first 25 values of the data, so the 25% of the data values that we have. All right. So basically, in this case, we want to calculate the 60th percentile so that we can understand what we are talking about here. All right. So how do we find our 60th percentile? We use this formula, and I will describe exactly how it's done. Don't worry, it might look like it's a lot right now, but it really isn't. It isn't a lot. So what this PJ here stands for is basically the percentile that we are calculating. So since we're calculating for the 60th percentile, it's going to be P60. So our J is going to be simply replaced by a value of 60. And then what is our L in this formula? Our L is the lower limit of the interval, which contains the percentile which is in question. In this case, which is the 60th percentile. And then the I is the interval length. This is our interval length. In this case, it's 10, as we can see here. So basically how we find that is basically subtract the upper class. You can subtract the upper class of the second interval of the interval after, which comes after, from the one which comes before. Or you can basically subtract the lower class interval of the interval which comes after from the interval which comes. So basically from this interval, we are subtracting this one here, which is our 20. So it's 30 minus 20 or 40 minus 30, which both give us 10. However you like it, it's your preference, right? And then this one here, it's the frequency. It's the frequency, cumulative frequency of the interval before the value we are dealing with. So if we are dealing with this interval here of 30 to 40, then we are going to be using this 12 as our cumulative frequency. That's simply what this is representing here, this here. All right, and then F is the frequency of the interval containing the percentile in question. All right, so let us calculate the 60th percentile using the formula above. So firstly, we want to know, before we do anything, we want to know the position of this interval. We want to know the position of the 60th percentile of the data. Now, how do we do that? So basically, we are looking for the 60th percentile. So this is how we find it. It's 50 multiplied by 60%, because we're talking about the 60th percentile. And then that then gives us 30. So now we know that this is the number we're talking about when we talk. So now we go back to our cumulative frequency distribution, which is our OGI. And then we find this 30 value on our cumulative frequency, because this is giving us the cumulative frequency value for the 60th percentile. So now, basically, I've used these lines to show you where it lies here on our graph. So as we can see, here's our interval upper limit. It's lying between the interval of 40 and 50. So now that we know that, we can now continue and apply this to our formula. And then, so putting this in our formula, what is our L? We said L is the lower limit of the interval containing the percentile. And from what we've just deduced, we found out that it is in the interval of 40 and 50. So looking at this, we see that this is our interval which we are dealing with. So this is our lower limit right here. All right. So having found that, we plug it into our formula, and that's where we get this 40 right here. All right. So now we said our interval length is 10, as I just calculated with you guys not so long ago. And then what is our J? We said our J is simply the percentile, which is 60, which we have over here. And then what is N? N is simply the total number of the sample size. Remember, we said we are dealing with what? With 50 males. We're dealing with 50 males at the beginning of our question. Just to prove it here, consider a group of 50 males. That is our N right there. So we plug it into the formula. You see, guys, it's not so difficult after all, isn't it? And then over 100, this is simply part of the formula, as you can see there. Minus 28. Why 28? Remember what we said? We said that from this frequency value, we are dealing with this interval. And we said that our symbol represents this number here because it's the cumulative frequency of the interval before the interval which we are actually dealing with. All right. So we plug that 28 right over here. And then this here, this F is the frequency of the interval, which has our 60th percentile. So now we go here. This is the interval we are dealing with. And we have our frequency here, which is 7. So that's where we get that 7 from. And then if you punch that into your calculator, you will find out that you get an answer of 42.86. And when you round it off, it's 42.9. So guys, this is basically, right. So guys, this is basically our first unit in statistics, advanced business statistics. And I hope you all have enjoyed. And if there's anyone with questions, feel free to ask them before we can proceed. Is there anyone with a question regarding anything? Cumulative frequency, the archive? Feel free to ask me, guys. I'm here to help. All right. Since everyone is quiet, let me just check the chat. Maybe somebody asked in the chat. Right. Nobody has asked. So you guys understand. Wow, that makes me really happy. So basically, I will be uploading weekly videos on different topics. And we are going to have live lectures every 2 to 3 weeks, basically answering your questions that you have as we are going through with this module that we'll be dealing with. And then on the 9th of March, we'll have together our assignment class. And all right. So I'm reading here in the comment, in the chat section. Someone is saying, I'm just really scared and overwhelmed by this module, to be honest. All right, guys, there's no need to be overwhelmed. If this is the first time you are seeing all of this, I'm only here to help you guys. Feel free to ask me questions. It is not too difficult, although you do need to practice. Remember, there are no traffic jams in the extra mile. You might need to put a little bit of extra work if it's your first time. Nonetheless, we're going to enjoy this, I promise. And I'm going to go the extra mile to also try to help you guys understand. Hence, you can use this chance to ask questions. And as we go on, I'm going to re-explain some of the concept. This was just an overview. And I'm going to give you much more clearer explanations and more in detail. And I'm going to try to be much more slower. Today, I was just trying to give the overview, hence it might have seemed as if I'm a bit fast. And I can also share my notes with you guys so that you understand, maybe if you need to reference back to what I've just explained in this few minutes. I think I can hand over, because my time is up. I will hand over to James.
Okay, thank you, Donald. I think, guys, we have come to the end of our session. Thank you guys for tuning in. So let's expect to receive our, to receive our recordings on maybe weekly basis as we progress for all the lessons that we have, for all the modules that we have covered in this session. Thank you once again for tuning in. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mama. Thank you. Great.